Good morning. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another special edition of country slash week slash year slash politician in review. I guess this is a special video that I'm doing based off of the recent video that one Tulsi Gabbard had released, talking about how she's leaving the Democratic Party. And of course, every single person that is center right just had to bow down in awe and just completely lose their mind over the just incredible political move that she was making, and it's sending shockwaves through the Democratic Party, and it's all smoke and mirrors, folks. Okay, I've had a bad feeling about this individual for a long time, and I don't usually talk about myself a lot. I try not to. I know I've had some personal things hindering my ability to actually upload on a consistent basis, but so I delve into my personal life a little bit as to just make excuses for why I don't upload as regularly. But when it comes to actually myself, I don't gloat, I don't boast, I don't do anything. I just share my opinions, and some people seem to enjoy what I have to say. But this is the one thing that I kind of give myself some credit for, and that's being able to see right through someone's BS and being able to just have a gut reaction to someone. And 90% of the time, I'm usually right. When I first heard Jack Murphy on with Viva Fry and Robert Barnes, I immediately didn't like the guy. And turns out, guy's a jackass. I never really cared for Cernovich. Turns out the guy's just a shill. There's a lot of people I've always had gut reactions to. Joe Rogan. Everybody loves to talk about how great Joe Rogan is when he says one thing right. And it's just like I've mentioned it multiple times on this channel. It's the broken clock analogy, And for Gabbard, it's the same thing. And I'm about to go through everything here from her presidential campaign just 2 years ago, and some other things as well. Now, and of course, as usual, I have one thing ready and I don't have the other thing ready. Gosh, bear with me, folks. Let's see. I'm looking for... Of course, I'm not going to find... Okay. All right, cool. Okay, found it. My fault, folks. I had to go and look up the one other thing that I wanted to bring up. But anyway, with that being said, minor hiccup. Apologies. It always happens when I'm in a rush to get something together for this for these videos. And also, this is a double upload a day. I have a video. This is so pathetic. I have a video that I recorded last week, and then I forgot to upload it. I got through all of the exporting from the recording software to the editing, and got the editing done, which really I'm terrible at. Well, I have very low patience when it comes to editing, so once I got through the very weak editing portion and saved that, I just got caught up with work and life, and next thing you know, I also had to go out of town last weekend, and I just forgot to upload it, man. So double upload today, except the extra video you're getting is a week old. So you'll have to pardon me for that. So yes, what we're going to do is we're going to get into Tulsi Gabbard, outline all the reasons why I have some concerns and why I believe that she is the future of the She may say she's leaving the Democratic Party, but she's really not. She's the future of the Democratic Party and the future is horrifying. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and go through a lot of these things, all of her issues, starting with immigration. On her campaign website, we need comprehensive immigration reform to address our broken immigration laws, and we need to have a serious conversation about the most effective and humane ways to compassionately, key word there, okay, secure our borders while building bridges in cooperative foreign policy with other countries. What does that mean? Well, what that means is basically what you're seeing right now, just not out in the open where everybody can see it. And of course, building bridges in cooperative foreign policy with other countries, aka bringing in more people from other countries with weak visa applications, weak work permits, to basically do what companies have been doing to the American workers for so long. Giving them the shit end of the stick while paying foreigners less to do the work that Americans can for a good salary. We need to ensure we have a clear, enforceable, accessible, and humane pathway to citizenship. What does that mean? Oh, well, gee, it sounds like... See, they have to put enforceable in there to make them sound more appealing to independent voters. But the key words there are accessible and humane when it comes to a pathway to citizenship. Well, what does that mean? Oh, well, I think that means just making it easier for illegals to become citizens. So basically, you could probably just walk across the border, be like, I'm illegal, I'm claiming political asylum. Oh, well, can you answer these 3 questions? Oh, great, okay, here's your citizenship. Most urgently, here's the big one, we must pass DACA. That is probably one of the biggest red flags you could ask for when it comes to immigration policy. DACA was and is constitutionally illegal. It did not. All of this was done outside of the powers of the president back when Barack Obama. I think it was like an order or something that he passed or so. I can't really. It was something along those lines. That's why everyone is so talking about DACA. It's not a law. It's a like an executive order or something like that. Something that can be rescinded to ensure children who know no other home are allowed to remain in the U.S. Well, what does that actually do as well? And we all know the term anchor babies. This right here is a pathway to also making it legal for any parent who has a child on American soil to become an American citizen automatically. Because, well, we can't just tear these families apart. So, and take steps to ensure children are not separated from their parents. Boom, I just said it. I didn't even have to finish the sentence. We must fund and equip agencies in charge of processing asylum claims and protect migrants. See, that's not what you want to fund. What you want to fund is border security, infrastructure, and checkpoints. That's what you want to do. And then, they throw in the whole, many of whom are women and children, and then they put all of this crap, like natural disasters. That doesn't mean you get asylum. If that's the case, everybody in fucking Florida can go to another European country and claim asylum because of a hurricane. Religious persecution, in the Middle East? Violence under an asylum status. Well, what violence? What? So anybody from Mexico who is is scared of the cartel can come here? So, right off the bat, bad news. Healthcare. We need real healthcare reform that brings down costs, increase access to quality care, and ensures basic health services are available to all Americans. So, basically, what every politician says when it comes to healthcare, both right and left. As a co-sponsor of H.R. 676, the Expanded and Improved Medicare for All Act, there you go with the socialism. There's a reason why foreigners who can afford to do it in other countries come here to get their surgeries done as opposed to waiting in line at hospitals hoping that they can get in before the end of the year to get a surgery done. Tulsi Gabbard is working towards a system that will provide universal health care to all Americans, a standard met by nearly every other major industrialized country in the world. So they like to point out that fact, but they also don't like to point out the fact that they're grossly understaffed, underfunded, and falling apart, and people get really terrible care. Like I just said, there's a reason why people who have the means to do so come to America to get their surgeries done and to get medication and all that stuff. Best example I can think of is Stefan Molyneux. When he had his throat cancer, he came to the United States. He got his surgery done. He got the tumor removed, and he talked about it. He said, "I would have died waiting in Canada to get this procedure done." And the doctor that I had first seen wanted to open my entire jaw to get it out. When he came to America, the surgeon here was more skilled. Let's just be frank. That's what Stefan Molyneux said. He said he made a small incision in his neck and was able to go in there, get it out, and he's been cancer-free since, I believe. I haven't followed up with him in quite a while. Followed up as in, I don't know him. Followed up as in watch his content. But, yeah. So, there you go with that. Yeah, Medicare for all. Yeah, we need a system that puts people first ahead of the profits of insurance and pharmaceutical companies. Medicare for All Act is an important step forward. So this is what I've said from the very beginning. And now I'm more, when it comes to insurance companies and stuff like that, I guess you would call me like a libertarian capitalist. I don't really know what you would call it, but I see it as this: keep the pre-existing condition clause for all insurance companies. I think that's something that I could honestly agree with, because my mother had a cancerous tumor in her kidney, which forced her to have her kidney removed, and she had a lot of trouble trying to find health insurance that weren't going to deny her because of her, quote, pre-existing condition. And I'm in favor of that. That's the one thing that I will say, yeah, sure. And of course, lowering drug prices, which Donald Trump was able to do. And now they're back up again because Biden rescinded that. And now he's trying to do it himself so he can take credit for it, for lowering prescription prices. It's insane. So you hurt people so you can input your own thing to make things better for them just so you can have the credit. It's a terrible way to do things. But when it comes to insurance, health insurance, I say remove all the regulations, let them work free across the entire country, and let them all compete with each other to give them the best course of health care possible at the best price possible. That's how capitalism works, folks. Let these companies compete nationally across the board and let them just battle it out with each other to give the best care at the best price. If you look in the retail world, that's how we got places like Target, Walmart, Kohl's, department stores that are like that offer better, cheaper prices for lower income people. Well, I think that's what insurance companies should do. Let them work free. Now, obviously, you want some oversight, but you can't have the government just run everything like this, because let's be real. Politics ruins everything. Everything the government touches eventually turns to shit. So that's how I see insurance, health insurance in this. Medicare for all is just going to make it infinitely worse. Hold on 1 second. Of course, I can never have a dull moment here. Work question I have to do. Hold one. Okay, my apologies. Hopefully I can power through this without getting any more questions. All right, so energy and environmental issues. Tulsi Gabbard, campaign site says, as president, I'll tackle climate change by ending subsidies to big fossil fuel and agribusiness corporations, ban offshore drilling, harness innovation to create jobs in renewable energy, provide better opportunities for our farmers, blah, 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 blah. Same Green New Deal stuff. She was talking Green New Deal before AOC even thought it up in a dream. Like, so obviously this is the big talking point for all Democrats, is all this stuff. And we can see now across the board. We can see across the board that renewable energy has been a catastrophic failure. And I said this in the second upload that I'm putting up. Everybody needs to read that book by Bjorn Lomborg, False Alarm. I think if anybody is going to talk about climate change, they need it. Mandatory reading should be that book at a bare minimum. False Alarm by Bjorn Lomborg. And he goes into, on an unbiased position, goes into detail how much money these climate policies are actually costing the entire planet and how it hurts poor and developing nations. And and also you look in Europe, especially now with the whole special military operation in Ukraine, and how it's affecting energy in Europe, and how, well, what happened to all of that in renewable energy that they invested in. Well, it turns out it's not working too great, and it's going to be the same here. There's just example after example how this is just a financial black hole that we're never going to see a return on any investment. So she goes on to say, we need to invest in 100% renewable and safe energy sources like wind, solar, and geothermal. Geothermal, thinking outside the box, give you credit. Wind, solar, proven weak systems. Like solar is fine for like small things or in emergency situations. I know there are some solar panels that you can like run a bunch of critical or electrical equipment in your house in a pinch situation. But when it comes to powering like entire cities, we're just not there yet. And I don't know if we're ever going to be. I also support a ban on fracking. That's a terrible idea. Ending the $26 billion a year in fossil fuel subsidies, as well as all subsidies or waivers to the nuclear power industry, which should itself be completely responsible for paying its own insurance and paying the long-term cost for safe storage of nuclear waste. I read through most of this stuff ahead of time yesterday, but reading it again just infuriates me how little people understand. Nuclear power is quite possibly the most efficient, clean energy source. And everybody is so afraid because of Chernobyl and, was it 3 Mile Island? But mainly Chernobyl. And people fail to realize the real reason Chernobyl happened was because they had incompetent people who had no idea what they were doing running that nuclear facility. I urge everyone to watch the HBO series Chernobyl. Outside of the fact that they created some random, character that was never a part of the story to be like the main linchpin in getting, government reform into that whole situation. Solid series, and it really does a great job of outlining what really happened at Chernobyl. So, but I mean, and as far as the subsidies go, I'm pretty sure within this, it's also the federal land lease. I mean, if you're gonna go with all of this other stuff, you already know the leases on federal lands are going to go as well, which is what the Biden administration did. And then as for trade, this is how you know that this politician has no idea what they're talking about. A single sentence. And it's not even and it's just a tweet. Trump's trade wars are a disaster. Examples, please. Billions in bailouts to farmers. Well, gee, all of that is because of what happened under the Obama administration. And China coming in and taking over a lot of farming industries here in America, and then also companies relying on imports from China. So to me, if a bailout is going to go anywhere, I'd rather it go to the fucking farmers and not the banks. How about that for an idea? Unstable markets for small businesses. Last I checked, under the Trump administration, small businesses and business in general and the economy was through the roof. I mean, just compare now to when Trump was in office. Sans COVID. We need trade policies that put the people first. It's exactly what he was doing. This is so infuriating. The economy. Let's see. From the Great Depression through the turn of the 21st century, Glass-Steagall helped keep our economy safe. Now, I'll be frank, I didn't have a chance to get caught up on Glass-Steagall, so I'll just have to leave that there. Repealing it allowed too big to fail banks to gamble with the savings and livelihoods of the American people with devastating irrevocable consequences. Okay, that I agree with. Like I said, broken clock. Of course, that was a terrible idea. Hawaii, along with communities across the country, paid the price in 2008 with the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Now, that was not on the George Bush administration. It just happened on his watch, and they made a terrible decision after the fact. What happened was just there was no. So this is the tricky part when it comes to Wall Street and big banks. People don't want too much federal overreach, but people want overreach when it comes to these Wall Street banks because of what happened during the Great Depression. I mean, it kind of was, but the 2008 financial crisis. But really what it was these banks taking advantage of, just innocent people who didn't know better. 2 movies I highly suggest. People probably have already seen it. The Big Short, that's probably one of the most popular ones, but another really good one that shows it on the government side. And I know you're probably going to be like, oh, I don't know about that, but it does outline how terrible these banks were when it came to these the mortgage-backed securities. They don't do as good a job explaining all that stuff as The Big Short does, but there are some scenes where they do explain some things, and it's really good. It's called Too Big to Fail. See, it's right there. It's an HBO movie. Too Big to Fail. I've watched it a bunch of times. Great movie, great acting, a lot of really good, solid actors. James Woods is in it. He plays the CEO of Lehman Brothers. It was a great film. So this is just the thing. I can understand this. When it comes to the economy, this is really the only thing she's talking about, and that's, I guess, talking about regulating big banks, which, who knows how that'll turn out. But I can agree that, her idea on her opinion of big banks is probably along the lines of a lot of Americans. All right, education. Right back to being right back out of sensible to nonsensical. We need to make sure we are investing in the future of all of our children. Oh, okay, you start off with good sense. In order to invest in our future, we have to provide adequate resources and meaningful accountability to ensure that all our students have equal access to quality education. Oh, okay, well, that starts in the inner cities. How about Baltimore? I saw a tweet yesterday. Had one student had a 0.3 GPA but still graduated. That was in Baltimore. Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., L.A. I mean, the list goes on and on. Probably some schools in like Tennessee, like, Knoxville, Little Rock, Arkansas, Kentucky. Some of those places in those semi-Midwestern states are some of the most dangerous and crime-ridden areas. So yeah, sure, maybe start there with those corrupt officials that run these cities. But wait a minute. The cost of tuition keeps too many people from pursuing a college education. You know what kept me from pursuing a college education? The fact that I just didn't want to go. When I was 18, I had the choice. I could either go work, or my father said, you can go to school part-time, you can work part-time, and I can help you a little bit with college. And I said, I made a business decision. I said, you know what? I really don't want to take out loans at 18 years old just to go to school. to try and guess at what I want to do the rest of my life, because to be fair, I had no idea. The only thing I really was interested in at that point was history. I had a very minute interest in computers, and I really never thought about even working on computers for a living, so I wasn't interested in doing that at the time. So you say, I'm going to go work. And I learned a lot joining the workforce at 18 years old that I think a lot of people who decide to go to college and work maybe at Starbucks part-time could really probably use that life experience. So I decided not to go to college. And it took me a while, but I ended up figuring life out through a lot of ups and downs, and I have a good job now, despite the fact that I only have a high school diploma. So we need to resolve student debt. See, here we go. This is exactly what the Biden administration is trying to do, and guarantee college for all. Guarantee college for all, not just provide, guarantee it. And then look what she does. From Trump University to Betsy DeVos, members of this administration have put a higher premium on personal enrichment than they have on improving our education. Evidence, please. Do you have a single fact to back that up? You can't just say things and not provide an answer to that. I mean, you can't provide evidence. You can't provide just one thing. I mean, this is all taken from the website. So, I think some evidence is should be brought forth to this. Now, I agree. Some of these universities are charging insane amounts of money for people to get degrees at the cost of their own free will and being indoctrinated. So really all she's saying right here is ending student debt and basically making college free. It's basically what she was basically saying here. Ooh, my favorite, everyone's favorite, gun regulation. The time for action is now. How many times have we heard that from all of our favorite Democrat actors? I guess, I don't know. We cannot allow partisan politics to get in the way of taking meaningful action in areas where both parties agree and that have the support of most Americans across the country. Wrong. It does not have majority support from Americans across the country. The only support Americans have across the country on this is not having any regulation whatsoever, which is why so many states have lifted a lot of gun regulations. Oh, she's going to give some examples. Both Democrats and Republicans support legislation I have co-sponsored to ban bump stocks. What a great freaking improvement that did. All you did was piss a lot of people off. Both Democrats and Republicans support legislation to uphold Second Amendment rights and strengthen the national instant criminal background check system. It already exists. I've given this example so many times. When I was in my early 20s, I worked at Loomis. It was an armored car company. You had to go and you had to get a gun, and they gave you a really terrible gun loan in quotations, and it was only $600, and then you had to pay that back in increments on your paycheck, and then anything extra you had to pay for out of your own pocket. And of course, all the guns were more expensive than that. But anyway, that's beside the point. I had to go and get a gun, and so I was here in Virginia, and I went to a gun shop, and I said, "Hey, I got this gun loan here," and it was a guy was all like, "Oh yeah, I've had a few of you guys come in here before." Gave him my ID, gave him all my information. He typed it in on this little computer that he had there. It was the FBI criminal background check. I had to wait there for 20 minutes while this thing did its thing, and then it said, "Okay, you're clear. What can I get you?" 20 minutes, and this was back in 2011, and so technology was obviously older. Now it's probably even more in-depth and even quicker. But I still had to wait 20 minutes, and it was going through the FBI and local law enforcement, said I wasn't a threat, and I said, okay, great. That's exactly how it's supposed to work. The problem is that too many of these people who end up getting Oh, you want to know who's dropping the ball? Our good old friends at the FBI. How many of these people have been on FBI watch lists and everybody just drops the ball on them? Kind of makes you think a little bit. Now is the time for us to come together and to take meaningful action towards responsible, common sense gun safety reform. Everybody's favorite phrase, gun safety reform. Gun control. Taking away the Second Amendment. It's all the long, long march to the gulag. That's literally what this is. Criminal justice. Here we go. Criminal justice reform is a bipartisan issue, I guess. It depends on where you're talking. It depends on what direction you're talking about criminal justice. We can bring down costs and improve outcomes by implementing alternatives to incarceration. What? Alternatives to incarceration? Like what? Being sent to your room? You're grounded. You can't go. You can't do something. You can't do something for a few months. What does that even mean? Our outdated policies on marijuana, here we go, are turning everyday Americans into criminals, tearing families apart. What? Marijuana is tearing families apart. And wasting huge amounts of taxpayer dollars to arrest, prosecute, and incarcerate people for nonviolent marijuana charges. How about just don't smoke? Don't deal drugs. It's that simple. I don't understand. Like, this isn't a discussion about whether marijuana should be legal or not. It's just a fact. If something's illegal, don't do it. It's that scene from Liar Liar with Jim Carrey holds up the phone. Stop breaking the law, asshole! Literally. It doesn't get any more simpler than that. You know, these people who are dealing drugs, if marijuana turns legal, they're just going to deal harder drugs. And then what's going to happen? We're just going to legalize every drug? It's like... And yes, that has happened, actually. I think it was, Portland that did that? And now it's a drug hellscape. That's what... I think it was Portland. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it has to be Portland, right? We must stand up against for-profit private prisons and a criminal justice system that favors the rich and powerful and punishes the poor, locking up people who smoke marijuana and ignoring cops and ignoring corporations like Purdue Pharma responsible for thousands of... Now, there she makes a good point. Like I said, broken clock. Yes, opioid-related deaths, Purdue Pharma. Watch the short series Dope Sick. That was a excellent overview. There was some terrible messaging in it as far as social issues, but as far as the overall story, what that was supposed to be about, excellent story. Well, not story, but excellent series about the true harm that these pharma companies have done when it comes to opioids. So, as president, I'll end the failed war on drugs, legalize marijuana, end cash bail, and ban private prisons, and bring about real criminal justice reform. Stupidity at the highest level here. So, war on drugs, look, we can all agree that the war on drugs, really what it is a war on drugs coming in from Mexico and South America. That's really what it is at this point, because that's where it's all coming from. And then, not marijuana, obviously. There's plenty of people who just grow it here, but legalized marijuana, look, that's a totally separate discussion, in my opinion, that is such small potatoes that, like, there's what we call bigger fish to fry, all right? End cash bail, okay. Ban private prisons. Now, I don't really know much of how these private prisons came into being. I always thought they were state funded and federal funded, but I guess I was wrong. But private prisons, when I think about private prisons, okay, I think about somebody or some group of people or a company or something owns a prison and it's not controlled by the state. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means your tax dollars don't go to it. But maybe I'm wrong, but maybe the state pays them to take criminals. Like, I don't really understand how that works. So that is something that does need to be looked into. I would need to really investigate how these private prisons work. Because I think private prisons, like I said, I think of something that's separate from the state, but it's taking in criminals that were charged and convicted by the state. So where does the money go? Does the state pay the prison? I guess that's the case, and I guess that would be our tax dollars. I really don't know. But if you were to ban private prisons, then what takes their place? Where do these people go once they're incarcerated? Because you really do have to look at the numbers here. How many people are actually in prison, not just jail, prison for drug charges? You know, how many of them are murder, rape, grand larceny, arson, robbery? Like, I mean, well, robbery and grand larceny is the same thing, I guess. But how many of them are in private prisons? Where do those people go? So these are all questions that need to be answered. Bringing about real criminal justice reform. We've heard this over and over and over again. Foreign policy. So we all know where she stands when it comes to foreign policy. She wants to basically end foreign wars. Blah, 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 blah. Exactly what Trump did. I don't remember any wars going on under the Trump administration. Actually, I remember a lot more peace agreements being signed and a lot more conversations and dialogue than our president now and the president before Trump. So can't really argue the foreign policy thing. So like I said, broken clock. We all know where she stands when it comes to foreign policy. She doesn't want any more foreign wars, no more wars in the desert, blah, 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 blah. Sure. Impeachment. Up to this point, I have been opposed to pursuing impeachment because it will further divide our already badly divided country. However, after looking carefully at the transcript of the conversation with Ukraine's president, the whistleblower complaint, the Inspector General memo, and President Trump's comments about the issue, unfortunately, I believe that if we do not proceed with the inquiry, it will set a very dangerous precedent. You can take that and go over there and fuck off. Go back to your stupid freaking island that I think we should just sell to Australia at this point because it's done more harm than good. The only reason we still have Hawaii is because of it being an important military base, strategic position. It's the only reason, it's the only benefit that stupid little island chain has. Give it back to the locals for all I care. And keep our military base there and pay them rent. How about that? Anyway, this is probably one of the most, probably one of the dumbest things that she's ever said, because this is so lockstep with all of the Democrats, which is why I'm so confused as to why she's leaving the Democratic Party, because literally everything she outlined here in her presidential campaign website is tit for tat, with the exception of a few things, along lockstep with the Democratic Party. And now she's talking about she basically was in favor of impeaching President Trump over this Ukraine phone call. Okay, well, we all saw the transcript. We all saw what was said. And we all clearly saw that there was no quid pro quo. There was nothing. Basically, he was trying to, for the first time in U.S. history, Congress tried to, or the House and members of Congress tried to impeach a president for trying to get to the bottom of corruption allegations involving a person who is now our current president. They thought that was a problem, even though there was overwhelming evidence. And what did they do? They pointed at Russia and said it was more Russian disinformation. Trump's falling into Putin's trapper. He's a Putin agent. And it was literally the same song and dance. And everybody fell for it. And now look where we are. And basically, when it comes to quid pro quo, it was a problem when Trump was asking the Ukrainian president for information and for his sources to look into this situation. But it's okay for Biden to go to Saudi Arabia and basically demand more oil production and try and strike a deal, or basically quid pro quo for more oil production in order to get gas prices down so it can help him during the midterms. Kind of seems a little suspect. And in labor, there's just nothing there. So now the last thing I want to bring up is this. She is part of the World Economic Forum Young Leaders Program, along with Pete Buttigieg, Tom Cotton, unfortunately, Dan Crenshaw, who we all just absolutely love, and then there she is right there. You know who else was there? Francois, John Baird. Well, Trudeau was part of it as well. Musk was there, which is why I am hesitant. But I'll say this, though. When it comes to this whole thing, her whole presidential campaign is lockstep with what all of WEF's agenda. So, I'm just, right there. There it is. Justin Trudeau. So, I know they recognized Putin as part of the WEF, but I'll say this. When it comes to the World Economic Forum, people who were on there and then are now doing things opposite of the World Economic Forum, I know everyone can probably see Viktor Orban. Well, what's happened with him? Well, he's definitely gone pro-nationalist. He probably, just like Putin, just like a lot of other people who are on this and who are on this, a part of this, and then started doing their own thing, probably saw the agenda and was like, actually, this is against everything I stand for. And no one is a better example of that than Viktor Orban, being probably one of the most nationalist presidents in Europe. And when it comes to, both Russia and Hungary have banned George Soros. They have completely gone against everything that the WEF stands for. So when it comes to people being a part of something and then doing the opposite, I'd say that these people are definitely pushing away from the WEF agenda. But obviously, Buttigieg, Crenshaw, Gabbard fully support it. So I will say what I've been saying about Tulsi Gabbard for years. She is a snake in the garden, and I'm telling you that there is a strong chance that she is going to run for president again in the near future, maybe even as a conservative, and is going to try and usurp the power of the country from the people and hand it over to the World Economic Forum agenda and transform this entire country for the worst, okay? The warning is here. It's right here. Do not listen to her. Do not take her seriously. She can get on Tucker Carlson all she wants, get on Dave Rubin, Joe Rogan, and talk about all this, say all the right things to convince the masses, but all she is a false prophet, snake in the garden, two-faced liar, okay? And she's from Hawaii. It makes it even worse. It's not a dig at the actual indigenous people of Hawaii. I'm just talking about how terrible that state is run. So send her ass back to Hawaii, let her surf all day long, and stay the hell out of politics. Thank you so much for watching. This video's gone on long enough. I'll catch you all in the next one.